Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and I just finished watching The Black Demon on Vudu. I rented it because I am a sucker for a shark movie, a killer shark movie. This is one that Kim and I were going to review together. I rented it first and watched it, and I texted Kim and said, maybe don't even spend $3 on this. I don't think it's worth the money for you to check it out. And that's the same information that I'm going to communicate to you. Like, I don't think this is worth renting. I don't think it's worth watching. I think ultimately it's a waste of time. And so let me just kind of jump right into what I really did not like about this film. So I'll just say right off the bat, I've got a couple of contenders for worst movie of 2023, and this is kind of inching up there on that list, which I hate to say it because you don't want to bash somebody's work. And again, I love killer shark movies. Jaws, like top five for me. You know, I love it. It's a great film. So this is everything that Jaws is not, and I don't mean that in a good way. The story is basically this, right? There is an oil executive, and I don't even know if that's really the right word. An oil inspector is this person's title. His name's Paul, played by Josh Lucas from A Beautiful Mind, among other things. Every time I saw him, I keep thinking about that movie, and I kept thinking, are you scared, Nash? You want to play chess or whatever it is they do in that film? But anyway, he's in the movie. There are a few other actors involved here. I've got the IMDb pulled up. It's directed by Adrian Grunberg, but the other actors don't really ring any bells here. So anyway, it does involve Josh Lucas as Paul, who is an oil rig inspector, and he's gotten rich doing this. And so the way the plot unfolds is that him and his family are in Mexico for a little bit of vacation, but while he's in this area where one of their sort of major rigs is located, he's asked to check it out, to sort of see how things are running with it, to determine whether or not it needs to be decommissioned, all that kind of stuff. He goes there and finds out that most of the people, the crew who run the rig, are gone and something terrible has happened. But that's sort of the basic premise, the setup. I mean, there's a lot of nuance that sort of emerges throughout the course of the film. Regarding Paul and some of the things he's done while working for this company. But once you get beyond that setup, there's really nothing here to appreciate at all, right? It feels like a movie that you would see on the Sci-Fi Channel. But I think about that, when I say that sort of thing, and then I think about movies like Sharknado or, Sharknado versus Crocosaurus. I don't even know if that's a real one. I just made that one up. But those types of films actually have a lot of entertainment value. This does not have that. What this movie sort of portends to be is kind of a rumination and commentary on pollution, right? On fossil fuels, on sort of nature lashing back at humanity for our dependency on oil, what that does to the environment, all that kind of stuff. That's what I think the filmmakers here were trying to sort of focus on, and to let that be sort of the thing that gets this across the finish line as a movie, and to be sort of the thing that they lean on and rely on to make this a worthwhile effort. But it just, is super kind of bludgeony the way they handle it. They just hit you over the head with that message nonstop. It's very obvious that's what they're going for. So when they're on the rig, what they're kind of contending with there is a megalodon that's coated in oil. So people are constantly coated in oil in this movie. The sea creatures are coated in oil. There's all that kind of stuff happening. So the message obviously is very clear, but it's not enough to make this sort of a noteworthy thing. I mean, there are a lot of other films that have really had great environmental messages in the past, such as The Happening. Totally kidding. Not a great example of that at all. There's also sort of this background thing going on with sort of an Aztec god, and sort of this kind of push and pull between Paul, who appears to be kind of an atheist in the movie, but he doesn't believe in any sort of any of the stuff that the locals are saying is impacting the rig and in their environment and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of scenes where people have sort of these weird kind of freak out moments where they imagine things that are happening around them, but then it turns out that they're not really happening. That happens early on in the film, and it's a little bit disorienting when it does sort of come into fruition, because you're like, did that really just happen? Am I supposed to believe in that? Or was that sort of an imaginary thing? Because you don't know anything early on about sort of the Aztec culture and gods that are sort of at the center of the story. But as it unfolds, again, you learn more about Paul and his family and some of the things that he's done while working as sort of a representative for this oil company. And he becomes a character that you like even less the more you learn about him. But, for a killer shark movie, the shark doesn't really kill that many people in this movie. Like, I mean, there is one scene where somebody gets bitten in half, and like, cool, you see that in shark movies all the time. But really, this is kind of a claustrophobic people trapped on an oil rig trying to figure out how to survive sort of thing. And to throw another wrench into the works, somebody has placed a bomb on one of the support struts for the oil rig to frame, or I guess really to take Paul out of the picture so that he can take the fall for this massive leak that has polluted the area because he had signed off on it, all of that kind of stuff. So it's just a weird kind of convoluted plot that doesn't have nearly as much action as you would expect in it. The CGI is not very good at all. It's just kind of a slow, weirdly directed movie. There's a lot of like close-up shots that I guess are supposed to, maybe heighten sort of the paranoia or to give you the sense of the paranoia that these characters are going through. But it's just a weird sort of way to frame things. There are some weird transitions. Like at one point, there's a transition where the camera literally zooms into a cloud really closely, and then it pulls back from the cloud, and they're in a different place. It's just weirdly structured and set up. And I gotta say, the climax of the movie, Paul decides that he's got to take out this shark and get his family to safety, so he plucks the bomb that was put there at the beginning of the movie by these two kind of oil covert hirees or whatever to go sort of take down this whole thing or to set him up and take him out of the picture. He plucks it from the thing, he dives underwater, he puts it to his chest, and he waits for the shark to eat him. There's the shot where the shark kind of comes up like it would have in Jaws, and I'll mention something about that too in a moment. Swallows him, and then the shark blows up, and they're playing this sad, slow music, and you're supposed to feel some kind of an emotional response, but it immediately cuts to his family on the boat the second after it blows up, and the kid's going, and it's just one of the most unintentionally, hilariously awful things that I've seen in a film in some time. Speaking of Jaws, there's a moment where he's about to go underwater to do this whole thing, this kind of heroic thing near the end. He's got his diving mask, his scuba mask, and he looks up to the guy who's on the rig with him, and he says, "I ain't got no spit." So it's a direct reference to Jaws, but it's like they're to me, it's almost like they're not really trying to pay homage to Jaws. They're trying to rip off the intensity of a much more well done scene from that film in what they're doing here, and it just kind of falls flat. So there's just honestly nothing all that entertaining about the movie, nothing very likable. A lot of times the movie looks like this, as long as there's carnage, it makes it a worthwhile sort of investment of your time to sort of sit through it and to enjoy sort of the insanity taking place on film, but none of that is here. There's just nothing here. So I rented it for, I think it was $2.99, maybe even $1.99, I'll have to double check, on Amazon Prime because I'd been wanting to see it. Not worth that. Like, even if it shows up on something like, Max or whatever, eventually as part of just sort of a free streaming thing or included with the package, like, I just don't think it's worth the hour and 36 minutes or whatever it was that I ended up spending with this. So, pretty terrible movie. And I'm thinking when I get toward the end of 2023, so when we get into maybe like November, December, I'm going to do my top 5 worst movies of the year. And, a little bit of a sneak preview would suggest that this is going to be on there somewhere. So anyway, if you've seen The Black Demon, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Maybe there was some component of this that just, resonated with you much more than it did for me, but I really thought this was a pretty terrible film from start to finish. But anyway, those are my thoughts on The Black Demon. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll check back in soon.